Hello everyone and welcome to another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live collaboration, this time in partnership with Silver Softworks, a Salesforce consultancy in London. Whilst we're waiting for everyone to join, please let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to see what global audience we have with us today. I'm based just outside of London, dealing with the current heat wave, which is not so fun. So we will get things kicked off in just a few minutes. We'll just wait for attendee levels to just flatten out a bit, and then I'll bring Zak on and we can get stuck in. Hi everyone that's joining. Cambodia, wow. Boston, Albania, Cambridge, that's near me. Hello everyone, nice to see you all today. Thank you for joining. Really big global audience today, but that's what we love to see. Okay, perfect. So I'll just give it one more minute just to let attendee levels flatten out a bit, and then we'll kick it off. Perfect. Right, I think we're all good to go. So hello everyone again. Thank you for joining another Salesforce Ben LinkedIn Live. Today we are going to be talking to you about the latest and greatest with Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud, a Salesforce product that's had quite a lot of updates recently. So I think this will be really useful for everyone. Let me just pull the slides up for you. As this is a webinar, all lines are muted, but don't worry, we'll be having a live Q&A at the end for everyone to ask their burning questions to Zak. Lines will be muted. You can submit your questions in the Q&A box, and this webinar is also recorded. It will be posted on our LinkedIn and our YouTube. So if you need to drop off or you'd like to send it to your colleagues, then that's no problem. You can always come back and look at it at a later date. Perfect. So now we'll just do some introductions. My name's Aoife Spooner. I'm the Events and Webinar Coordinator at Salesforce Ben, and we are very lucky today to be joined by Zak. Zak, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, thanks Aoife for the introduction and the host of the session with me. My name's Zak, I'm the Nonprofit Director here at Silver Softworks, a Salesforce Summit tiered implementation partner. I've been working with Salesforce since 2011, but focused on the last 10 years with onboarding nonprofit organizations onto the Salesforce platform. Really excited to be talking to you today to cover off something that was announced back in March, the new nonprofit cloud solution for case and program management.
Perfect. Well, it's lovely to have you here today, Zak. So I'm going to drop off now and I will join back at the end for the Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So today's session, we're going to be going through a series of topics. So the main agenda is to first look at the evolution thus far of Salesforce nonprofits, and then a fairly straightforward answer to the question of why, followed by a brief overview of some of what Salesforce is calling industry common components. Then we'll move on to the high-level demonstration of programs and case management, and then we'll finish the webinar with a migration approach talk point and any questions that you might have that I can answer. So initially, the evolution of Salesforce. Salesforce and Salesforce.org were first launched in 1999. The first non-profit-focused effort was released in 2008 by Salesforce.org in collaboration with community members who saw the potential for non-profit organizations on the platform. The Nonprofit Success Pack version 3 was then released in 2014, which included a massive overhaul of the previous functionality and introduced lots of additional features and became the de facto baseline for most nonprofit implementations on the platform itself. The Lightning interface was then launched in 2015, a complete visual overhaul of the old classic interface to lay the foundation for the amazing functionality that is being released now and in the past 8 years as well. Salesforce.org, which was its own entity, has now integrated with Salesforce, and this occurred back in 2019. Nothing really noticed, or no one really noticed any difference day to day. It just made sense to now treat them as one and the same. A lot of people, including myself, already did. Now, today we have the Nonprofit Cloud. Again, it's an overhaul of the functionality, but with the mindset of it being part of the core platform rather than an add-on to the Salesforce platform. The non-profit success pack is going nowhere. I want to be incredibly clear on that statement. Salesforce is committed to supporting the MPSP platform indefinitely, and this is very similar to the Lightning interface launch, where the Classic can still be used today as well. So if you are on MPSP, don't panic. There's no rush. Now, why evolve? As mentioned, Salesforce is always evolving and identifying the next iteration of their offering. However, this is the first time in history that non-profit industry is being treated as one of the core platform rather than a separate licensed or managed package or the additional add-ons that they've introduced. Over the years, Salesforce has released 14 various products, such as the Health Cloud, the Non-Profit Success Pack, the Program Management Module, Case Management for Nonprofits, etc. And all of these elements of separate standalone functionality that could benefit the wider organizations that utilize the platform. In this case, specifically for programs and case management functionality. These are called industry common components. Now, over time, the use case and functionality needed by nonprofit organizations has changed, and this is a great opportunity to refactor the platform and make everything a little bit better without losing any of that core functionality. It also allows us implementation partners to use more of the platform to benefit your mission. Rather than creating components or replicating functionality of other products, we now have access to them all under the same platform. We can also look at the cross-sector impact and data analysis as well. By storing all of the data in a shared model, we can start to track the core KPIs and impact in a much more meaningful manner. We're able to see more and more organizations utilize the platform for a combination of fundraising, grant-making, programs, and services, but all of them have the same desired outcome, and that's impact. This core platform now pulls all of the data together and makes it far easier to access and see the impact at a glance. So coming over a few of the common industry components that we're talking about, there are several components that are now available of this core platform. Omni Studio, Action Plans, Actionable Relationship Center, and the Discovery Framework. Omni Studio has actually been around for a few years and comprises two key elements, so Omni Scripts and Flex Cards. The scripts contain the logic of a user interaction and provide linear sort of guided paths for business process, whereas the Flex Cards are very similar to Lightning components and use the display data and launch actions. These will dynamically display data based on the page and the record that they're shown on. Combining these two pieces allow us to drive a sort of a guided interface through the predetermined path via the scripts and display/capture any information via the cards themselves. Action plans are actually very similar to engagement plans, which are part of the nonprofit success pack. However, in MPSP, these were typically driven by fundraising thresholds. Now, action plans can be attributed to any record in Salesforce and drive repeatable tasks as you need. So you would create an action plan template, which is a list of actions or tasks that will be automated, and then you can utilize that action plan template against any record in the platform. So you can create an action plan for case intakes, follow-ups, assessments, or sessions. The Actionable Relationship Center is part of actually the Finance Services Cloud, which is now available to us, and it provides an interactive map of your data based on the record you're looking at, being able to visually see the linkages between cases, clients, providers. This provides more meaningful context on sometimes complicated relationships. And then finally, the Discovery Framework, which is also part of the Financial Services product. This allows us to utilize Omni Studio to generate online forms within Salesforce and surface these forms through Experience Cloud, Lightning Web Components, or embedded directly into the pages, all using the core Salesforce functionality. So then what we're going to move on to now is a sort of high-level program management demonstration using the new nonprofit cloud. So if I move over to my demo environment here, nothing has massively changed here on the initial interface. The main difference is that we're using the console view rather than the more standard navigation of tabs. So instead of having tabs across the top, we can see the tabs down within this menu here. Let's start with the programs. So if I navigate to the programs, we can see a list of all the programs that are currently active in my demo org. Programs are a bucket of benefits that culminate in the program area, which individuals can be enrolled within and monitored throughout. So if we have a look at the employment program, we can see immediately that there's core information around the program itself, but we also have a list of all the benefits down on the right-hand side here. So we can see what types of benefits are culminating in this program. So each benefit has a different type. So we can have group sessions, personalized coaching times, one-to-ones. We can even track things like stays, overnight stays, if you provide housing or shelter accommodation. And we can also track the unit of measurement in terms of minutes, sessions, nightly stays, that sort of thing. So if we go into the career development benefit here, the first thing that we'll see that is slightly different to the nonprofit success pack version of the program management module is these two components where we can see the number of sessions and quantity that's been delivered in the previous year versus year to date, as well as those dispersed quantities, the sessions previous year, year to date, and even the month to date in this particular component. As we can see, additional information regarding the benefit information and the upcoming sessions over here on the right hand side, but we can also go to the related list and see any assignments that have already been pushed to the enrollees or to the clients, as well as any of the benefit schedules that have been configured. So these schedules will then drive the sessions, but if we go back to one that doesn't already have these configured and have a look at the application and resume assistance benefit, we'll see that there's no upcoming sessions and we currently don't have a benefit schedule set up. So if we go through and create a new benefit schedule, this is now using one of those industry common components, the OmniScripts and the Flex cards. So this is how you can guide your users through the creation of records, both internal and external, if you surface this up to the Experience Cloud if you wanted to. So let's create a benefit schedule and call this one schedule. And then we can specify what the quantity is. So whether this is one session, 60 minutes of training, or anything along those lines. So we go with 60. And then we can specify the first dates, etc. So if we go with today and we specify that this might be 8 p.m. tonight, and then we'll finish this at 9 p.m. tonight. And then we can choose the frequency of these sessions. So we can have weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, etc. I'm going to select weekly, and then it will ask me what days of the week. So this is very similar to the program management module of what some users may be used to on the existing MPSP instance. So if we were to select Wednesdays, and then again, we can select whether or not we want to end the session on a specific date or after a certain number of sessions. So if we go for 5 sessions here, and then click next, I've selected AM rather than PM. And then this is where it's giving you a preview of the benefits that are going to be created. So I'm happy that that's created them with different dates. They're all Wednesday, so I can click Save there. And then it will take us back to the same benefit, but now we can see we've got a list of upcoming sessions, and we can also see that the schedule is created there. Now, it's worth noting here that you can actually have multiple schedules if you wanted to. So if you have a weekly session like this, but you wanted to have a recurring 6-monthly, monthly, or annual review with all of the people that are enrolled in this benefit, then you can create a new schedule, and then that will link those sessions into this list here as well. So if we click into the schedule now, we can still see the upcoming sessions, but what we want to do now is add or enroll participants to these sessions. So the key difference here between the program management module and the non-profit program management functionality that we're showing here is that we can add clients to both the schedule and the individual sessions. So if I wanted to add some participants to the schedule, then I can add participants here, and I have the option here to either pick from a program enrollment, so people that are already enrolled on the programs, from accounts or from contacts. So I'm going to stick with the program enrollments and pick a few people here and just save that. And now if I was to look into any of the upcoming sessions, these people will be there ready for me to track their attendance. What I can also do is at the session itself is add individual participants. It's the same process. I can pick and choose who I want to join on this one instance of a session and have them go through and have them again tracking the attendance there. Now, if I was to go back to the schedule here, I can see within this one there's loads, but on this one it should just be the original ones that I added to the schedule itself. So it gives you that ability of adding people to specific sessions without having to enroll them to the whole schedule if you wanted to, which is a big key difference. However, not all enrollments occur ahead of time. So let's talk about sort of walk-in attendees and how we can add them at the program level as well as the benefit level. So let me close some of these down. And if we go back to this sort of program level of employment, we have both at the program and the benefit level the ability to add ad hoc disbursements. I'm going to do it at the program level because it's slightly different. But if I click this little button here, again, it's bringing up this interface where I can decide whether or not I want to track that we had some walk-ins on the programs or the sessions, and whether or not they were anonymous. So I can say how many minutes or sessions were dispersed and how many people. And I can also add them against program enrollments if I wanted to. But for now, we'll stick with walk-ins. We'll find the benefit. So this is now filtering down based on the benefits that are available to me at the program level. If I was to open this interface at the benefit level, then this option would disappear because I'll know where I am and what I'm doing. So if I wanted to add them to the interview prep, for instance, and I can say, actually, that was 15 minutes that I added today, and then click next. Now it's asking me who actually came along. So I can search for accounts or contacts, find them, and then add them into the program and the benefit. So if I select a few people here and then click save, what that's done now is then gone and created disbursements for them. So we're now tracking the fact that each one of those individuals have received 15 minutes against that particular benefit. And then that allows us to then feed back all the information that we need to in terms of impact and deliverables, etc. So now what we'll be doing is at that sort of session level, as I mentioned, we can start tracking the attendance of the people. So we can either select that everybody has attended. At the moment, they're all enrolled, so we can select attended, excused absence, unexcused absence, and then just update them across. So now we're using more standard inline editing capabilities of Salesforce as opposed to the previous component that we had to track that attendance. And that makes everything a little bit easier to maintain and manage going forwards as well. So if we now move on to the case management demonstration, where I will take you through the referral process, the case creation, intake checklists, care plan creation, and the participant profile itself. Now, if I tidy this up a little bit here, one of the main purposes of the case management functionality is to track inbound referrals for review, eligibility, and ongoing care plans for those recipients or clients. We can see one of the main components that we now have on this homepage is the inbound referrals to review. However, before we get to actually reviewing the referrals, I wanted to indicate how you might create the referrals initially. So we've got multiple ways of receiving them. Typically, it would be via an online form, the Experience Cloud, a chat bot, or live chat via the website, or manually created by your users. So within the demo org here, I have this sort of OmniScript and flex cards of going through and actually creating a referral. So I could add that Rachel Watts referral has been received today. I can give it additional descriptive information if I wanted to. I can indicate that it was a self-referral or was referred by somebody else, and I can add who that referral might have been. So if I add Hope Haven Shelter as an example here, I can also, if I wanted to, add them as new clients, new contact details, or search for existing contacts. So if I search for Rachel here, and we can see Rachel Watts already exists, but if not, I could create her within this same sort of inline form as well. And then I simply click next, and that would create the referral for me. But in order to progress to the next step, let's have a look at actually one that we received earlier called Bonnie. So we'll go into Bonnie's referral itself, and we'll have a look at her referral record. So we've got a lot of fields out of the box that Salesforce will provide. Usual case with Salesforce that we can remove any that are irrelevant. We can add up to 500 that are more pertinent to your use case and what you want to be able to capture. What we would normally do at this point, though, for the referral is create a case. So now we want to go through the process of creating a case that will then become the sort of foundation or the central pivot point for her ongoing care and benefit assignment and whatnot. So if I now go through and create this case, I'll say it came through from the community. I'll say the priority is sort of medium, and then the status might be working. And then again, this is another example of Omni scripts and flex cards. But the next page is now asking me to map out the various participants. So we can see we now have Hope Haven Shelter as the referring organization, and we have Bonnie Blackwell, who's the referred client. But I can also add additional participants if I wanted to, such as family members. So if I was to search for John Blackwell here, then we can also add John as a contact or a case contact onto this record itself. Now, we now have these three elements, so Bonnie, Hope, and John, and I can select what type of role they're going to have at the case that's going to be created. So if I wanted to, Bonnie could be the observer, but we're going to keep her as the client. Hope Haven will be the referrer, and then we might have John as an observer, and then we can track whether or not they're active or inactive participants on this particular case. And then once we click next, that will then go through and create a case. And then once I click done, we can then see the actual case itself. Now, this is a standard case object. So if you're used to Service Cloud, then this will be very familiar to you. The main difference is the component over on the right-hand side where we can now see the case participants that have been pulled through from the referral record. And we can also see various tabs on the main screen itself, so care plans and action items. Now, you might still be in this sort of intake process with Bonnie, so you might want to go into the action items, and then this is where we can start using those action plans that I mentioned, these predetermined templates of tasks that you can then add to any record. So we might want, for instance, a general intake or a healthcare intake for Bonnie, and if I select the general intake, that will create a series of tasks associated to the record. And then if I was to refresh the screen, so the next time I come to look at the record, I will see the actual action plan embedded in there as well. And as these tasks are being ticked off, you'll see that those items to be completed are then sort of almost instantly updating. So you can start tracking various action plans. If you wanted to, you could add as many as you wanted and have as many of those tasks automatically pushed out. And you can see they've been pushed out by different dates and weeks as well. Now, if we have a look at the care plan itself, so this is where you're going to be building up that sort of holistic approach of caring for Bonnie and the different areas that she wants to be working against. So if I was to go and click add and then select Bonnie's care plan, and then again, we have the concept of templates within Salesforce. So we can have care plan templates that have already been predetermined in terms of the goals, the objectives, the benefits that should be utilized there. But we can also modify those templates on the fly as we're adding to Bonnie. So if I wanted to go for the mental health care plan template, I can then specify a start date and time, end date if I wanted to, what the status is, so proposed, draft, active, etc., and who the participant is. Because we know that we've got multiple case participants, it will now ask me who should be the actual recipient for these benefits. So I'm going to select Bonnie, and then we're going to click next. Now, as part of that care plan, we had a series of top goal definitions as well as benefits that could be utilized for Bonnie. I can simply pick and choose which ones I want her to be a benefit of or enrolled onto. But I can also, if I wanted to, add additional definitions or benefits. So if I wanted to say add another benefit in terms of job search assistance, then I can select that and add that to the list. So that now becomes active at the bottom here. What this means is that you don't need to worry about creating a whole bunch of care plan templates that are tailoring for every nuance of what you do as an organization. You can have baseline templates, and as you're onboarding people or enrolling them onto the programs, you can then pick and choose what they want to do. But what you may have also noticed is the core difference here is that you're not having to add them to the program level for them to inherit access to all of the benefits. You can now onboard them to various benefits that are part of different programs. So rather than having Bonnie in on the job readiness program, I can just simply take this particular benefit and add it to her care plan. So it is now being able to tailor that care plan based on the client's needs, as opposed to how you've set the programs up. So as we go through to the next page, we can then see more information around the top goals and the different benefits. So we've pulled through Bonnie as the enrollee. I can specify whether or not this goal is currently active, what the target completion date would be, when we're planning on starting it. We can also see that tasks have been automatically added based on the care plan template. I can then go into the various other elements and add additional bits if I wanted to, tailor this whole care plan to what Bonnie is needing. So I can enroll Bonnie on this one. I can then, if I wanted to add additional tasks, so if I wanted to assign a specific ad hoc task to a colleague or myself or to Bonnie herself, then we can use this tool to essentially create that care plan for you. So if I just finish adding Bonnie to all of these elements, then click Save, that will now create this care plan where we can see all of the goal assignments that have been created, different completion percentages, etc., and all of the benefit assignments that are there as well. So she's part of the group therapy sessions now, and she's enrolled on the job search assistance. So then to pull this all together, let's have a look at a participant profile. So this is probably the bigger change for the nonprofit success pack versus the nonprofit cloud. So if I have a look at another client, Joe Silvers. So as we can see on this initial screen, it looks a little bit busier than what a typical Salesforce MPSP functionality would look like. But actually, once you start looking at the functionality, you'll realize that it's just trying to give you as much of that information at a glance as Salesforce is trying to move to that sort of holistic approach to data generation and gathering. So starting down on the left-hand side, we have this typical highlights panel, which we can see things like pronouns, contact information. Again, this is configurable, so we can add or remove whatever we need to there. The big change here as well is the tag system. So being able to tag records with various categories or summarized information so that you can then segment and report on those people that are tagged for specific purposes. And then just underneath that, we have this interactive client timeline. So we can expand and collapse and view what's going on, not just in a linear fashion of Joe's engagement with us and their various progress, but we can actually expand this and then see the different benefit assignments that are within there. And then we can expand that and see what's going through. But more importantly, you can now edit these records without leaving the contact record. So you can now view and edit and update all of the information around their benefits and their disbursements without leaving this initial screen, which is really, really cool. And then over on the right-hand side, we have the action launcher. So this is where you would normally have log a call, new task, emails, that sort of thing. But this is now allowing us implementation partners and yourselves as well to now create custom actions and have that presented to users with one-click access. If you want a specific email template to go out, if you want to create specific subsets of records, then you can have this as an action launcher over on the side, which is really, really cool. And then the last bit on this section, which is the interaction summaries. So this is very similar to the notes functionality of the case management for nonprofits. It goes into a little bit more detail. It treats it as a separate record, which is really nice. I know the case management functionality did that as well. But the main thing here is that it's actually pulling all these out into a separate section. So you don't have to go looking for those notes. You can find them at a glance again. And then in the middle here, we have the typical contact record where you can see all of the information, the fields and the attributes that you want to be able to create. But we can also see subtabs such as relationships. This existed in the Nonprofit Success Pack, but this is what we're calling and using the Actionable Relationship Center, or ARC. So this is a visual representation of how these records relate to each other. So if I was to hone in on Joe, for instance, and then zoom out, we can then see that within this same screen, within this same page, we can look at and see all the contacts that have been related, any household information, the benefit assignments. We can go into there and see the disbursements. So we can see Joe spent 8 nights at the shelter, for instance. And as this expands out and you start relating more and more records in, this becomes a complete map of how all of the data sits and works in a centric view of Joe. We can also see life events. So this is a chronological order of big activities and things that you might want to keep track of in terms of Joe. So we've got things like other, date of birth, the school she attended, the job, marriage, retirement, health events, etc. But we can also hover over and see things like incidents. So we can then start tracking that actually Joe moved house back in January 2023, and then she had a traumatic event in May, and then you can start tracking and clicking into those to understand what that actually looks like, and whether or not you need to be more mindful or reach out for specific things as well. And then we have this sort of view again of the original cases that we started working with. So the referral case and the care plan. So again, we can drill into there and see all of the benefits and elements that's there. So hopefully you'll all agree that this sort of evolution of Salesforce platform is bringing a lot of additional functionality and insights into your engagement with your clients and participants, and is setting the foundation for even more functionality to come over the next few releases. I think the next element that we had on the agenda was to go through the potential migration paths. So let's move on to there. So for new clients, there is no migration path that's needed. When you are signing up for Salesforce, you can choose whether or not you want to have your licenses allocated to the Nonprofit Success Pack or for the new Nonprofit Cloud. For existing clients, we're hopeful that Salesforce will announce a migration tool similar to the tool that was released for the Process Builder migration to Flows last year. However, this hasn't been confirmed at all by Salesforce at this time, so we're hoping that something might be coming down the pipe to help us do this. We'd also need to treat each of you individually, as everyone will have slight variations of the Salesforce platform based on the implementation, but we'd welcome the opportunity to discuss the options of either doing an in-place migration or moving you onto a totally new Salesforce instance based on the new Nonprofit Cloud. I think that is everything. So if there's any questions or anything coming out in the comments, Aoife?
Hi there, thanks, Zach. That was a really insightful session. I don't know why it's not popping my camera on. But yeah, we'll be going into the Q&A in just 1 second. So if you have any comments at all, please pop them in the, if you have any questions at all, sorry, please pop them in the comments and Zach will be answering them. So first, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Zach. A super insightful session. And I love the demos. You really brought it to life. So I'm sure everyone will now be a master in migrating to the new Nonprofit Cloud. Okay, perfect. So we've got a few questions in the comments now. So we've got one from Nick Gazard. Does the existence of the discovery framework mean that add-ons like form assembly aren't quite as necessary?
I think it's really early days to understand what the impact is of any sort of third-party products. We use form assembly a lot. We're partnered with them. I think the main intent here is to make forms available to you from an Experience Cloud perspective or from an internal perspective to just streamline that process. I don't believe that Discovery Framework is designed to be a form builder in the context of what Form Assembly can do in terms of payment module integrations and things like that. So I think there's still going to be use case for these products, but there might be more of use case for using standard Salesforce a little bit as well.
Perfect, thanks. And then we have another question. Does the Nonprofit Cloud use personal accounts?
It does. Yes, so personal accounts have been around for a long time. Previously, we tend to shy away from it as an implementation partner, but this new Nonprofit Cloud does indeed use personal accounts.
Perfect. Thank you. We've got lots of questions coming in now.
Excellent.
Great. Are P10 licenses still covered in the new non-profit cloud?
Yes, Salesforce has confirmed that the P10, the Power of Us Hub, or Power of Us grant process is still present and available for all of your licenses. Recommend getting in touch with your account executive if it's of interest to move over.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we've got another question in the comments. Then we've got some from YouTube that I won't be able to pull up, but we'll go on to those next. Will this new cloud be available to trial in Devil?
That is a very good question. I don't know the answer to. I suspect yes, but honestly, I don't know. That is going to be a Salesforce related thing as and when they're ready to release them. I'd be very surprised if they didn't.
Perfect. And we'll have our colleagues pop in the contact website link for Silver Softworks. So if you have any more questions afterwards, you can go over to the website and have a look on that. So now we'll just go on to a few questions that we've had popped on YouTube. Is the Power of Us Hub 10 free licenses still a thing?
Yep. As I mentioned a minute ago, the Salesforce is still committed to provide those grants for nonprofit organizations for sure.
Perfect. And then we've got another one. Are the components automatically enabled with the new nonprofit cloud?
They are. Yep. No additional products or anything in there. It's all there, ready to be used.
Perfect. And then I think we've got one more, and that's just on how many templates can we create?
So you can create as many templates as you need. It's all data driven, but I'd argue again that you don't want to create templates that are too nuanced. You want to keep them reasonably high level so that you can then, as you saw in the demonstration, add to them as you're onboarding clients. But yeah, you can have as many templates as you want.
Perfect. Thank you for that. So if you've got any more questions, please go over to the Silver Softworks website and they'll be sure to respond to you on that. But I just wanted to say a massive thank you to Zak for this incredible presentation. Do you have any final words?
No, I don't think so. Hopefully see some of you, or if not all of you, at the Salesforce tour tomorrow. That's a really exciting day, big day. Hopefully there'll be some more announcements from the nonprofit team as well at Salesforce. So hopefully we can do another one of these soon.
Perfect. And a massive thank you for everyone joining us today. A really insightful presentation, as I said, and we hope to see you all again soon for another LinkedIn Live.
Awesome. Thanks all.
Thanks all. Bye.